Nowadays, concrete stamping is another decorative process that has become very popular. This system involves coloring fresh, ready-mixed concrete and embossing authentic-looking patterns of brick, stone, or wood into the partially set concrete. Concrete stamping is commonly used in new construction. Stamped concrete looks great around pools, patios, and walkways. In many areas of the country, laborers with good concrete stamping skills are in demand. The concrete stamping process begins after the concrete has been placed, bull-floated, and edged. If the project calls for coloring, wait until the excess bleed water has evaporated before applying the color agent. Bob Harris, the president of the Decorative Concrete Institute.
Here we're using a wood bull float, again, to level the surface. It's going to cut the highs and fill the voids, but it also leaves the surface open or torn, and it allows moisture to come to the surface and evaporate. In order to use a color hardener successfully, you need a little bit of that bleed water to absorb into the color hardener. So we're going to bull float this off. We're actually going to do a decorative border as well in a contrasting color. So we'll go ahead and cut our border in, and then we'll start with the color hardener application.
Though the color agent is most commonly applied using the dry shake method, follow the manufacturer's recommendations. After the color hardener has been applied and slick finished, apply the powder release agent prior to stamping.
We're putting a powder release on the surface right before we stamp. You never want to trowel powdered release in. This is a product that only is a barrier between the fresh concrete and the stamp, so don't ever trowel this in. You're putting it on in a uniform fashion with the brush, as you see here.
The release agent will keep the stamping tools from pulling up the concrete, and it will impart another color shade to the work. Place the first stamping pattern mat carefully. The first mat laid is critical to the layout of the job.
It is a good idea to pre-texture the area where the stamp is going to overlap into the border. That way we don't have to stamp hard into the border. So I'm just going to lightly come in here and tap texture. Now I also want you to notice where the mat is. When I pick it up, the release color will change in color. It'll lighten up. And later on in the process, I'll bring that point back up. Look how it's lighter. That's an indicator that we're getting full texture. Now never drag this either. Watch this. Turn it every time.
After placing the first mat, place the other stamping pattern mats close together, starting the stamping sequence. A hand tamper or roller should be used to firmly imprint the texture and pattern of the stamp into the concrete. To create neat and even grout lines, keep the stamps fitted tightly together. To highlight the beauty of a stamped job, add a border.
For an accent on the border, we're going to use this custom designed grapevine stamp, and now we're going to precondition it with liquid release. You never want to combine the powdered release with the liquid release, so it's important to keep the powder off of the liquid in this case.
After the stamping is complete, allow the concrete to set for 1 to 4 days, depending on climate, before washing the excess release agent from the finished surface.
All right, we've got the remaining release off. Now it's time to do one last rinse here. What we have here is a neutral cleaner, and we want to just go ahead and scrub quite a bit of that release off. And now you can see the color of the color hardener coming through. So we'll go through this whole panel like that. There we go.
After the slab dries completely, 2 coats of 30% solids clear sealer should be applied to the surface using a 1/2-inch nap roller. Even though you're probably doing this procedure outdoors or in a well-ventilated area, wearing a respirator is a smart idea when using a